All right, in this episode, I learned two very valuable and important lessons. Before you talk about something, before you get into the nuts and bolts of it, you should outline kind of, high level what it is that you're going to be speaking about. So in this presentation, I talked about building your professional brand, and I started going into it assuming that people knew what a professional brand was. But, just to clear the air at the very beginning so that way you kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about. When it comes to a professional brand, I'm talking about all of the things that showcase your likeness, your style, your thoughts, packaging all of those things so they're all cohesive. So if you're someone that's in the public light, from the most minute things of your social media, your LinkedIn, your about page on your company website or your own personal website, that all showcases your brand and who you are. So that's your imagery, the text, the things that it says about you, as well as any other supplemental content that you might have, such as videos, maybe you have like graphics, or you have a podcast, or you also have a blog. All of these things are part of your brand, so making them sound and feel the same is very helpful and beneficial, and being concise and being able to articulate to your audience very fundamentally what it is that you do, such as your elevator pitch, why you do it, and what makes you successful, and as well as a little bit of your personality. All of those things go together to showcase your brand. So some people, they separate their own personal brand on social media from your personal things that you might be doing from your professional stuff. That just depends on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish with your business or your career. So with that said, that's mistake number one. Didn't talk about, I kind of buried the lead, if you will. And then this other aspect is I was using this new microphone, and so the audio, a good chunk of it, it's in my pocket, but I think it still comes out somewhat decent. There's a little bit of ruffling, so sorry about that, bear with me, but I just want to stick to the cadence of producing these, so I'm going to throw this up, and then who knows, in a couple weeks or a couple months, I might remaster this so it sounds a little bit more concise and clear. Also keep in mind that there are slides that go along with this episode, so if you go into the show notes, you can download those slides. I might put them on SlideShare, but anyway, you can find a link there to be able to follow along. I think it's kind of helpful because as I point and look to the slides and provide, further details on each of the little bits of information that I'm sharing with folks, it's nice to follow along, and you can always reference them later. So, feel free to check out those slides, and let's start the episode.
Thank you for checking out the Media Marketing Podcast, a place where you can learn all things media and marketing related. Don't miss a beat in boosting your business and your brand. In each episode, you'll gain valuable insights, tools, and strategies to apply to your marketing efforts. And now your host, Brian Cargill.
My speech today is the status report. And I thought I'd find a way to tie together what I do for a living, which is marketing and video and podcast and photography, all together with giving you an update. So what was traditionally done for marketing and branding for yourself personally, or if you're a business owner, and what people are going to start doing here in the future or already doing currently. So to kick things off, let's go into the first slide. Okay, things are working. So who needs this presentation? Well, if you fit this category, great. If not, keep listening. But typically, someone who needs to work on their professional branding, and this is a must, is if you're a business owner, if you're a salesperson, if you're a public speaker, or an author, or if you work in corporate leadership. And why would these people need to work on their professional branding? Well, they're the face of their organization, and people are going to be looking to them. And when you focus on your social media, when you focus on all these things that can build you up, which I'm going to get to in a second, that really pays off dividends, and it shows you in a light in the community, and it allows people to resonate with what it is that you do for a living and how they can choose whatever product or service that you provide over other people that might do something similar. So for everyone else, which if you don't fit in this category, when does professional branding make a difference? Well, when speaking with clients, if you're someone that is going to be having those customer relationships, if you have your personal professional brand built up, then people can connect with you and they can see you as a reliable source. It can improve your career trajectory. So if you have a blog, if you have a podcast, if you have these things within your organization, it shows that you're dedicated beyond just the day-to-day work, and that you're someone that is striving for bigger and better things. And it gives you credibility in your industry. So if you have a blog, people look to that and they say, oh wow, this person is working really hard, and I can read what it is that they're explaining to the masses, and I can get an understanding of who they are and what their knowledge source is. So before we get into this, I did put together these slides at the last minute. Kind of this came up. And so I'm gonna. There might be some tweaks in here, and I'm gonna ad-lib along the way. But this is kind of a starter presentation I'm gonna build upon for future use. So you guys are probably wondering, what is a professional brand? Right away, what is this guy you've been talking about? Well, your professional brand is everything about you. Everything from your professional photo that's on your LinkedIn, down to everything that you've written on social media, to just how you're perceived in the marketplace. How do people talk about you? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? So we're going to get into those. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about what people have done previously for their professional brand, and then I'm going to talk about what people are doing currently and into the future, some best practices, and some tips that hopefully you guys can implement into your own day-to-day professional brand. So in the past, probably about 2019, all you needed really for your professional brand, or what most people did, was they had a website, they maybe had a brick and mortar business, maybe you pay for some advertising, but for the most part that's what people really hung their hat on. And then maybe you had public press, where you went out to a journalist, they wrote something about you, maybe you had an article written about you in the newspaper or a digital. And then after that, it was just word of mouth. People down the street, they'd say, "Oh, I went to the bakery, and they have the best donuts in all of the town. Go check it out." And it was really whoever was within that network that would talk about your organization and be able to share your message. Is everyone kind of following here? Does anyone have any questions so far? Now, I know it can be overwhelming. Now there's a lot more avenues and ways for you to get your message out there. So many of you are probably familiar with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and these are all social platforms which maybe you can share your favorite dog photo, or now people are using it as a political platform. But there's the other side of it, which is it's a great tool for showcasing your professionalism and what kind of person you are, and all the great things that you have to share about your organization and the culture of the business that you work for. And so I put the social platforms on the top, but really what I'm talking about when it comes to professional branding, the things that can set you apart are these ones along the bottom, which is Medium, which is a great site for blogging. There's a lot of other ones out there, but Medium's pretty refined, pretty fresh. So just having a couple blogs that are associated with your name, it's instantly something that people can talk to you about when they're having one-on-one conversations, as well as maybe another employer can see that and say, oh wow, this person is sharing their knowledge. I can connect with them and maybe hire them on, so it helps you with your career. YouTube. There's other video platforms like Vimeo. You can even post to Instagram directly, LinkedIn directly. But YouTube, building up a YouTube channel is huge for your professional brand, because if you can do it, if you're someone that can speak on camera, and I imagine everyone here can speak on camera, that's why you're here at Toastmasters, or at least you're aspiring to be able to speak on camera. But building out a YouTube channel is a great way for people to see you right away. They can emotionally connect with you. You can share that information, and just having a few videos is better than none, or no videos. And then having no videos, obviously you're not able to build any traction. You're not able to build a base of followers or people that are supporters of what you're doing. And then I put iTunes over here, which is really the other space, which is podcasting, which there's also Spotify, Stitcher, so many other platforms too. But building out a blog post, or building up a podcast or a series of audio files that kind of explain what it is that you do for a living, or being able to share that information with others, is a huge way for people to, again, be able to connect with you, and you have the intimacy of someone listening to it while they're in their car or when they're going from place to place. A big thank you to our sponsors over at songtub.com. That's right, song or music and a tub, like a bath, but more fun to say. Tub. Anyway, you can check out Songtub's website for any of your music needs. In fact, the song playing in the background right now is from Songtub. So why pick them over anyone else? Well, they curate the music. And I know the guys, so that means I know that they're selecting great music for your project. A lot of other companies will brag about how many songs they have, maybe 100,000, 200,000, maybe even 1 million. But honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have the time to just sit down and go next, a song not so great, trying to figure out where the best music is. Songtub.com, great place to get your music, and now I'm excited to offer you the first month for free if you go to songtub.com/pro, P-R-O, and we have a promo code for you. Yes, that's right, my name, your host, Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, and that will give you your first month free to have access to a huge music library that you can use towards your next video project, podcast, or any of your general audio needs. Anyway, back to the show. So I'm going kind of fast and flying through a lot of these, but I'm just really trying to give you guys the status report of where things used to be, where things are headed, and maybe in future speeches I'll dive a little bit deeper into each of these different ways of explaining your message. So what are the benefits of getting your message out there, building yourself up on these different platforms? Well, you're able to directly educate people. In the past, people, if they wanted to get education, where would you go? Well, you had to go to your local library to get that info. Or maybe you heard it from a friend. Or, I don't know, maybe you read it in a magazine, or you actually had to use some kind of physical paper. But now you can talk directly to your consumer. There's people in here that do email marketing. That's a direct way of being able to talk to your audience. You're able to share that video, or you're able to share that blog post or that podcast with them directly. You're able to dictate your narrative. So what do I mean by this? Well, instead of a journalist or an outside entity talking about your organization, you're able to actually shape and mold the message of what it is that you're representing. What is your organization all about? What are the good things that you're doing in the community? So you're able to tell that story for them to be able to resonate and connect with it. And then as well, it pays dividends. So starting today, being able to start these platforms and being able to share your ideas, being able to share the information that you have. It's not going to take off tomorrow, it's not going to take off the next day, but if you start working on these platforms, start building them up now, in 10 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now, you're going to start seeing some traction. And that's where, I might be able to dive into a little bit, but where marketing meets sales. So, this is all the front end work, and then eventually you're just trying to educate your prospective client or customer to eventually close the deal and be able to help them solve the problems that they have. How are we looking at time? 9? Okay. So why spend the resources here? Well, I would imagine there's a lot of content already out there. People are already doing this to some degree. But if there's no one else in this space that's doing it, that no one that it's currently in your market or industry that's doing this, you can be an early adopter. And there's a lot of rewards to people that are early adopters, because just by being first or being in the first 100, you're going to have a lot of leverage over other people that are trying to break into the market after the fact. Why else spend these resources? Well, you're able to help people. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're all kind of here for, is to be able to help others, being able to help the community. And so if you're able to help solve someone's problem for them by educating them, by showing that you're top of mind when they do run into an issue, that's really good to be that person that's able to lend a helping hand with your product or service. And then as well, you have control over your name. So we talked about messaging and getting your story. When you're the one that is putting yourself on these platforms, when you're the one sharing these ideas, you're the one that's putting it out. It's no one else telling you what your name is. You have absolute control over your social media platforms. You have absolute control over your video platforms. And that's a pretty empowering thing, whereas you didn't have that option a couple years ago. So my tips, already I've thrown a lot at you, but my tips would be don't get overwhelmed. There's so many different platforms to be able to share your message and share the things that you're knowledgeable about, but pick one. If you think you're a better writer, start with writing. If you think that you have good personality for being on camera, try that. If you think you just have a good voice, you have a face for radio, then try podcasting. But pick one, give it a couple months, and see how that goes. And if you're getting some traction, triple down on the things that are working. If not, change gears and try one of these other platforms. And then, like anything, there's a little bit of a learning curve to each of these, and an amount of comfortability. So at first, it's going to be a little bit challenging. You're going to have to learn a few things, but it gets easier with time. And you're eventually going to be able to figure out these systems and maybe be able to capitalize on multiple different platforms for sharing your message, rather than just sticking to one. Last but not least, I would like to leave you all with a quote. This is my favorite one. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So even if you are maybe a little bit behind, you're not one of those early adopters, well, starting to plant those roots now of building out your blog post, building up a podcast or those video series, doing that today is going to pay you dividends down the road. So I hope this has been informative. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I have some business cards if anyone wants to ask any other questions, and thank you for your time. All right, there you've heard it. Somewhat on the condensed, but a lot of information there in this episode. I'm probably going to dive deeper into each of these topics as the show goes on and as I do more presentations. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a flavor, a little bit of an overview, get the gears turning. Each of these things that I mentioned take time, and they don't pay, dividends right away. But as you build your foundation and become, more knowledgeable and credible in your space, you're able to really leverage that. So good luck. If you have any questions, as always, info@briancargill.com. You can check out my website to learn about what I do independently. Best of luck on your journey, and see you on the next episode. A cactus knows how to survive. It can endure scorching heat, limited rainfall, and defends itself against critters daily. Your business is no different. To survive harsh conditions, it's important to develop deep roots using media content that'll continuously nourish and support your marketing efforts day after day. Tactus Media is here to help you determine a strategy and create media content. Together, let's map out the next sequence of videos, podcasts, and social media to help your business thrive. Work with Tactus Media. Media tactics that stick. Ouch! Visit tactusmedia.com to learn more.